Hey guys, I'm Dev and I love a good Act 2. Getting past the sophomore slump is a big test for any Hollywood trilogy. Like, you want people to stick around for the big finale, right?
We would be honored if you would join us.
Well, a perfectly executed second act can guarantee moviegoers will line up for the third. We won't spoil The Last Jedi in this video, but it's clearly solidified the sequel trilogy in the hearts of fans. Today I want to take a look at how Star Wars and other big-name trilogies hook the audience with classic Hollywood storytelling techniques and explore how Act 2 makes a trilogy epic. Before Marvel changed the movie industry with their shared cinematic universe, trilogies were all the rage, and a lot of them were patterned on concepts originally developed for standalone screenplays, including the classic 3-act structure. Most mainstream stories can be divided into 3 parts: the setup, the confrontation, and the resolution. Act 1 and 3 are fairly self-explanatory. The first movie is introducing the world, and the third is the big climax, but like an Oreo, the middle part is usually the best. The confrontation is when shit gets real. It's when our characters are at their lowest and usually suffering a major defeat. When it comes to nailing the second act of a trilogy, it's hard to top The Empire Strikes Back. The Rebels are coming off a huge victory at the end of the first movie, but the sequel opens with the alliance based on Hoth getting absolutely destroyed by Imperial walkers, and things go downhill from there.
This deal is getting worse all the time.
Our protagonists are flung to different corners of the galaxy. Leia's lifelong cause is in tatters. Han gets stabbed in the back by his second best friend.
I'm sorry.
And Luke bails on Jedi training to get his hand sliced off by Papa Vader.
I'm not afraid.
You will be.
The characters are at rock bottom, and it's hard to imagine their world getting any worse. In the last shot, everyone's just staring out of the window like, oh shit, what do we do? Because they have no idea how they're gonna get out of this extremely bad situation, and neither does the audience. And some directors, am I right? But you're sure as hell gonna stay tuned for Act 3 to find out. Empire's prequel counterpart, Attack of the Clones, never hits the same tragic lows. Our heroes foil an assassination attempt, successfully track down and kill a bounty hunter, and fall in love. The final shot of Clones is supposed to be a tribute to Empire, but it's set at a beautiful wedding on a paradise planet. Like, there's nothing to worry about there except for sand, maybe?
I don't like sand.
He's got his droid buddies. He's got his girl. She forgave him for killing the village, right?
Women, children, she didn't care. She still raised them.
It's when you do it the second time. It's when, she's like, hey, that's too much.
You're breaking my heart.
Sure, Anakin loses his hand, but there's no overwhelming tragedy that propels the story forward. Attack of the Clones fails to make the stakes real and impactful for our heroes. The only real consequence is a war between clones and robots that you have to watch a tie-in cartoon to actually see.
For the Republic!
Personally, I think it's worth the 6 seasons and the movie.
6 seasons in a movie.
6 seasons in a movie.
There you go.
But Rebels is better, and you wouldn't be wrong for not watching it. In most trilogies, the second act has to suck for our heroes because it's the best way to build up tension for the climax. The Matrix Reloaded ends with Zion on the brink of destruction, Morpheus losing his belief in a savior.
I have dreamed a dream, but now that dream is gone from me.
It's devastating and heartbreaking, but there's also that little bit of hope, which honestly doesn't need to exist in an Act 2. There's no light at the end of the tunnel in Empire, and there's no hope for you when you hit rock bottom, which is exactly what a second act symbolizes. In The Dark Knight, Batman stops the Joker, but he loses the bigger battle for Harvey Dent's soul.
The world is cruel, and the only morality in a cruel world is chance.
Bruce's dream of a city that no longer needs him is destroyed by his failure to protect Gotham's White Knight. By the end, he's haunted, villainized, and alone. He's doomed to be Batman for the rest of his life, at least until the end of the third movie. But to learn that lesson and become that person, he had to utterly fail in Act 2. It's like Harvey says, the night is darkest just before the dawn, and I promise you, the dawn is coming. Another essential Act 2 element is emotional setback. In the 3 years between A New Hope and Empire, Han and Leia have developed extremely complex feelings for each other. He's a cocky asshole, and she just wants to reach the good man she knows is underneath.
Come on. Come on.
You're imagining things.
The whole film builds to their first kiss in the belly of the space slug, which makes it even more devastating when they're torn apart at the moment they acknowledge their love.
I love you.
I know.
A good Act 2 doesn't just impede our protagonist's quest, it throws the emotional wrench into the works too. With all the backstory out of the way, the second act has space to build the personal relationships between our heroes, and the characters' internal struggles become just as important as stopping the bad guys. If you want us to stick with the story, we need a human connection. The audience has to be as heartbroken as Leia when Han gets frozen, so we're invested in his safe return in the sequel.
Leia.
One misstep with The Matrix Reloaded is that Neo and Trinity's relationship never really changes. They're a happy couple when it starts, and by the end, they're closer than ever. Morpheus is bummed about his ship blowing up, but that's just a thing that happens. It's a good hook for Revolutions, but the second act needs an emotional cliffhanger too, an internal struggle that defines what our characters are fighting for. Of course, it doesn't have to be a romance.
Great Scott.
After nearly destroying all existence in Back in the Future 2, Doc Brown kinda loses his taste for time travel.
And then I'm gonna destroy the time machine!
Destroy it? What about all that stuff about humanity? Where we're going and why?
The risks are just too great as this incident proves. And I was behaving responsibly. Just imagine the danger if the time machine were to fall in the wrong hands!
He's horrified by the power he has in his hands, and he swears to destroy the DeLorean once and for all. But by the end, he's got a family, a giant flying train, and a more chill perspective on the whole playing God thing.
Your future hasn't been written yet! No one's has! Your future is whatever you make it! So make it a good one! Both of you!
He's a more complete person when the story finishes thanks to the emotional turmoil he went through in Act 2. It's the same with Luke in Empire. For 3 years, Darth Vader has haunted his nightmares. After Obi-Wan's murder, Luke has been holding back all of his rage so he doesn't fall to the dark side. And then the monster that did it turns out to indeed be the Father.
You are the Father!
It's a devastating moment that kickstarts his emotional growth into the fully realized being he becomes at the end of the trilogy. Then he goes and f***s up again, and it's up to The Last Jedi to set him on the path to redemption. The second act lets us know the road a hero has to take in order to triumph, and sets up their journey by revealing the arc. One of the reasons everything sucks for our protagonists in Act 2 is because they're still in the middle of their character arcs, and they're just not equipped to succeed yet. In The Return of the Jedi, Luke has grown into a stoic warrior. He's mind-tricking people and whatnot.
You will take me to Jabba now.
It'll talk about Jabba now.
He even built his own lightsaber. But in Empire, he's still angry and impatient.
You must complete the training.
But Han and Leia will die if I don't.
And he nearly gets himself and all his friends killed in a botched rescue attempt. In order for Luke to grow, we need to see him fail. Compare him to Anakin in Episode 2.
If you're suffering as much as I am, please tell me.
He's feeling the same emotions as Luke, namely being treated like a kid by Obi-Wan, crying about it and shit. But unlike his son, Anakin gives in to his anger and slaughters a whole village of Tusken Raiders.
I killed them. Every single one of them.
He doesn't learn any lessons, and he even tells Padme she's totally cool about it.
They're like animals, and I slaughtered them like animals.
To be angry is to be human.
And because he's never faced repercussions for his misdeeds, he never grows as a character. He just keeps falling further into villainy. It's an inversion of the classic hero's journey where the protagonists only succeed by learning from their mistakes.
I've come back to complete the training.
No more training do you require. Already know you. That's what you need.
They need a better understanding of the world around them or the right set of companions to see them through their quest. They'll get there by the climax, possibly during it, but in the second act, they've still got a long ways to go. In The Dark Knight, Batman alienates most of his friends and takes the rap for Harvey Dent's killings.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I killed those people. That's what I can be.
No, you can't. You're not.
I'm whatever Gotham needs me to be.
Then he retires for 8 years because he f***ed up so bad. In Act 3, he's finally ready to let people into his life and become the symbol Gotham needs, all thanks to the insight that he gained after being brutally outsmarted by the Joker.
I took Gotham's White Knight, and I brought him down to our level. It wasn't hard. See, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push.
It's a compelling arc for our hero, which is something the Matrix sequels never really introduced. Neo has already finished his growth in the first movie. He went from civilian sheeple to godlike kung fu master. And then he just kind of stays there for Acts 2 and 3. He learns things, struggles, and makes decisions, but he's pretty much the same Christ figure throughout, pretty much like Superman.
He's doing his Superman thing.
The whole dying and coming back to life thing would have worked so much better in the third movie, but once you've conquered death itself, where else could your character possibly go? It's not like you need anything big to keep the audience engaged. I mean, Marty McFly's hang up is pretty simple. He flies off the handle whenever people call him
Chicken! McFly! Nobody calls me Chicken.
But when he sees the consequences, he keeps a cooler head and saves himself from a life-ruining decision.
30 years ago, your father tried to prove he wasn't Chicken, and he ended up in an automobile accident.
Oh, you mean with the Rolls Royce?
Part 2 introduces us to issues Marty needs to overcome so we can cheer him on when he finally gets over it in Part 3.
I said that 10, you gutless yellow pie slinger!
He's an asshole. I don't care what Tannen says, and I don't care what anybody else says either.
Look, don't get too confused by all these rules. You can read a million books about screenplay structure and still create the room.
Well, whatever.
But you'd be surprised at how many movies stick pretty close to the outline, and if you zoom out a little further, you can apply the same lessons to the entire trilogy. It's a lot more work to earn people's attention, not to mention money for 3 connected films, and the structure can leave the second movie in an awkward place. But Act 2 has an important job. It's the meat of the plot, it's the linchpin holding the whole narrative together, and when it's done right, a great Act 2 is where a story turns into a saga. Hey guys, I'm Dev. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let us know in the comments below what your favorite Act 2 is, be it Spider-Man 2, X-Men 2, Mass Effect 2, and let us know how The Last Jedi did setting up the last act in this whole new trilogy of Star Wars movies. And as always, please subscribe to Now This Nerd. Thank you.